This is what a bike tire looks like after it's been hit by a car. At NYC Velo, an East Village bike shop, they fix roughly 10 or 12 damaged bikes every week. Shop owner Andrew Brooks said about half of those are due to incidents with cars.
I would say that, it's not that uncommon when the bikes come in, we probably have a couple a month that come in that are completely unusable, where the frames are, damaged beyond repair.
Statistics from the New York City Department of Transportation show that car accidents with bike caused 4,592 cyclist injuries in 2016 and 18 fatalities. This isn't new, but the issue of bike safety is front and center after a terrorist attack in Manhattan last October. This is where it happened, a beautiful bike lane along the West Side Highway. A man drove his truck down the bike lane, killing 8 and injuring nearly a dozen. The incident was declared the biggest terrorist attack in New York since 9/11. But cyclist Ted Hampton, who pedals to work every day along this route, says dangerous incursions on the bike path aren't unusual. Despite a citywide program called Vision Zero, which was created by Mayor Bill de Blasio to improve bike and pedestrian safety, Hampton says that for years, nothing was done about complaints that the path was not safe.
We saw just how bad that can get when someone actually wants to be on the bike path and hurt people intentionally. I think a lot of what the city has done under the de Blasio administration has been more cosmetic. I think it's easy to create a logo for Vision Zero than it is actually to create change.
The city has since installed barriers on the Hudson River bike path, but out on the streets, many cyclists are still unprotected. Organizations such as Transportation Alternatives and Families for Safe Streets are fighting for more change. Activists rode from the Hudson River bike path to City Hall in November to call attention to bikers and pedestrians that lost their lives in the past year. Executive Director of Transportation Alternatives, Paul Steely-White, said he wants safety measures to be the norm, preventing tragedy before it happens.
The purpose of today's rally, protest, was to really put pressure on the mayor and the governor to redouble their efforts to implement Vision Zero. But only a fraction of New York City's 6,000 miles of streets have received these kinds of safe street redesigns. It shouldn't have to be so hard. It shouldn't take a mass killing to get basic safety improvements installed on some of our highest volume corridors.
Activists have prioritized bike lane improvements along 2nd Avenue, Broadway, and right here, 5th Avenue. And I would know, even though I was obeying the rules of traffic, a car turning failed to yield to me, and this is where I got hit. My case is not unique. Activists say that each year, dozens of accidents occur along 5th Avenue, and yet there's still no protected bike lane in Midtown. In a show of protest, activists joined hands last October to create their own protected bike lane.
Whose streets?
Our streets!
Back outside City Hall, activists displayed the photographs of bikers and pedestrians who lost their lives. One was Emma Bloomstein, who died in 2012. For her sister Alyssa, the rally was deeply personal.
She was biking to a class at Brooklyn College and was biking straight down Bedford Ave, crossing Empire Boulevard, and a truck making a turn just neglected to yield to her and ran her over.
Bloomstein said her sister's death could have been prevented with more protected bike lanes. The acting deputy director for the Bicycling Greenway program at the Department of Transportation, Alice Friedman, says that this is a project they are implementing over the next decade. Bike lanes will be installed in 10 so-called priority bike districts throughout Brooklyn and Queens. Friedman said that these lanes have multiple benefits, and not just for cyclists.
In terms of economic benefit, we did a study of retail sales and other ways of looking at the economic benefit of businesses along those corridors compared to businesses not on those corridors, and we found that in fact, the protected bike lane corridors had a better economic outlook. The second one is in terms of ridership. So we've seen really significant ridership increases along those facilities. We see that more people want to ride bikes where there's a protected bike lane. And also, interestingly, more women want to ride bikes. So overall, many more men ride bikes than women. So where we see those protected bike lanes is where we see kind of the least disparity. And then the third thing, which is really the most important, is in terms of safety. So where we've seen protected bike lanes, we did a study in 2014 that showed that overall accidents with injuries, not just for people on bikes, but for people walking or getting off the bus or in a car, went down by 20%.
But protected bike lanes isn't the only goal activists have. Bloomstein said that she wants to see more understanding on the part of car drivers as well.
I never like to see cars get mad at cyclists for seemingly innocuous or inane things.
The tension between bikes and cars is something that many at the rally are all too familiar with. Megan and Sean Davidson Ensgard and their son Clay bike regularly, but sometimes sharing the road can be a bumpy ride.
Whose streets?
Our streets, not one more. We've been hit multiple times, but usually at very slow speeds. People who just aren't watching what they're doing and they don't look before they turn right into you. I mean, never fast enough to do a lot of damage, but yeah.
We've had stuff thrown at us.
Yeah, we've had things thrown at us, have people yell at us.
One woman in one case she was really upset that I had to move out into the lane of traffic because the bike lane was blocked. And she felt like she's the only person allowed in the lane of traffic. So she got really mad. So when I was back in the bike lane, she came up next to me and started screaming at me. So then when traffic started moving again, she threw a soda at me out of her car.
Clearly, not everyone loves cyclists. Some want the city to put the brakes on the biking craze. Numerous columnists have come out against adding more bike lanes, saying that they are a waste of space and money, considering only a small fraction of New Yorkers, roughly 2%, actually commute by bike. They also claim that cyclists pose a danger to pedestrians. Steve Cuozzo of the New York Post has been especially vocal on the issue.
Bicycle riders in New York City, you have no idea how much you are despised, hated, and detested and loathed by everybody who is not on the same bike with you.
On the streets of New York City, residents had a more moderate approach.
I don't think that bikers are necessarily a problem, but I think that there are people like delivery men who are on like a time constraint, and I think that they aren't safe because I'll see them go when it's not their turn, and I'm just trying to cross the street, and it's dangerous.
It's horrible. I mean, in my experience, the bicyclists need to follow rules of the road. When I was younger, I used to ride on the bike on the streets all the time. I know I went through red lights, but I always followed the traffic flow. In other words, on a one-way street, I was on the right side of the street going in the same direction as traffic. I wasn't going opposite traffic. I knew how to take care of the traffic lanes. Everybody needs to know the rules of the road and take care of the rules of the road. They shouldn't be caring about, I got to get there and red lights don't matter. And that's what I see.
In response to this bike lash, bike shop owner Andrew Brooks acknowledged that some cyclists have created a bad rep for bikers due to their risky behavior.
If you have cyclists that are always doing whatever they individually think is best for them, there's a certain level of chaos that's never going to lead to anything particularly positive collectively. So the best chance that we have for, let's say, long-term coexistence in New York City as cyclists is if there's a certain unity with the rules.
However, even when following the rules, some argue there's just not enough space for bikers.
It's never been harder to get around the city than it is today. And you, bike riders, are the reason.
But Brooks acknowledged that cyclists are often scapegoats for larger transportation issues.
People should be complaining about, frankly, a litany of other things in New York City that are frustrating. If they choose to take it out on cyclists, I can tell you that my feelings aren't hurt.
To stop the bike lash, bike enthusiast Ted Hampton hopes that bikers can shift the city's gears and challenge the primacy of the motor vehicle, leading to more acceptance of bikes on the road.
This city is a laboratory for a major change in how people view the bicycle. And, the government has to support that by, reclaiming the roads and bikeways for bicyclists.